as it relates to the opportunities online. For those of you at home, listen at this time. Q95 is about information, entertainment, and education. So this afternoon, we're going to provide you with some education this afternoon, okay? Sit back, learn a few things. And I want to say good afternoon to you. Of course, I want to introduce Mr. G at this time. We'll be taking you through. On our panel, Avenel Christian, who's a software consultant, also computer science teacher at the Dominican State College, Mr. Winston Etienne. They will form part of the panel for the full hour. So let's say good afternoon to Mr. G. Are you there, Mr. G?
I'm Matt. I'm right there. You hearing me well?
Hello? Hello?
You hearing me well, Matt?
Are you there? I suspect you're not. Let's see. Are you there, Mr. G?
Yes, I'm there, but Sherwin Matt is not hearing me for some reason.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. We're here.
You hearing me now, Matt?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Excellent. Very good. All right. Let me just say good afternoon to all of your wonderful listeners, Matt. And thanks a lot for accommodating us on your show this afternoon from 1 to 2 p.m. Well, I guess we lost at least about 5 minutes already, so we're going to try to move right into it. But this afternoon, Matt, as you said, I mean, let me just say a big shout out to our esteemed colleagues, Avenel Christian and Winston Etienne and Bernardito. Very happy to have you here with us this afternoon and to hear you have your share with a lot of our people who are listening, the valuable information and opportunities that you would like to convey to them this afternoon. This is a special edition of Talking the Block today on the big station, and I'm sure we're going to talk about the great job opportunities in IT and science and engineering and then, of course, getting the right education to be able to live and work remotely anywhere in the world for a good pay. So I believe that Avenel and Bernard and Winston will talk about some of the job opportunities in big corporations and graduate majors and jobs that could guarantee you sometimes permanent residency in some advanced economies like the US and other countries. And of course, the red hot remote jobs, the job market that is really booming out there since in the aftermath of COVID-19 pandemic, how to find those jobs and how to make yourself good and noticeable and impress the a good impressive online profile for those persons who are looking for recruits to ensure that they shine the light on you. And then, of course, I will be hoping that Bernard and Avenel will talk to us about the whole question of branding Dominica as let me see how I would say that. We definitely want to in the medium term to brand Dominica as a high-tech human resource destination. We see what is happening with countries like India. You make a phone call or and somebody in India is answering that phone, or some of these credit card companies, the back office, all of that work is being done in remote locations like India and so on. So Dominica, I think we have a whole lot of wealth of human resources at home and abroad, well qualified and well placed, many of them in high positions, a lot of experience. I believe in time we could have our own indigenous Silicon Valley made up of Dominican experts at home and abroad. And I'm sure Bernard will agree with me on that. And I know that Bernard is interested in the fourth industrial revolution as well. So I'm sure we'll talk about that and the human capital, a plan for human capital that targets the fourth industrial revolution. So I think it's all about building a global network of talented Dominicans focused on building the Dominican knowledge economy. So we will ask the question, why build this kind of economy in our minds? Because it's more resilient, obviously, than one built on our fields. And the question is, where do we start? How do we start? And not what do we do to get started? So Matt, let me just go quickly over to Avenel to get the ball rolling.
Sure. So I want to start off by saying that we have such a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of skills in Dominica and from Dominicans. And one of the things that I have observed as I speak to some of the students who come to the United States to study, some of them I've actually hosted at my home. I live in Boston, but graduated from Convent High. And what I have observed is that a lot of the students who leave Dominica to go to study abroad and probably are even considering fields, even if they don't leave the island, is that a lot of people don't really think about what am I going to do with that skill set after I have selected a specific major to study or after I have selected certain courses. What's going to happen to me after the fact? And so I'm hoping that we can start opening up our minds today because we see too many of our young people who are brilliant because they have these opportunities to go to other places and to study, and even at the state college, but studying some of the wrong majors. I don't know if I need to be politically correct to say that there's not no such thing as a wrong major, but at the end of the day, when you are done with a 2-year education or a 4-year education, whatever it is, the objective is that you want to make sure that you secure a job where you can help yourself, you can help your family, and also help the nation. And so that's extremely important as we open up this conversation. We want to make sure that you are aware of some of the areas in which you can study so that you can secure that good future, that bright future. And some of these areas include topics like engineering, the science topics, and IT. And I just want to talk about that just a little bit. Some of the best paying jobs in the entire world are used to be just in the medicine field, but it has now extended and expanded into technology. And we use the term IT loosely here in Dominica. There is a significant difference between what IT is and what software engineering, computer engineering is. And that also applies across the board to some of the other engineering disciplines, such as electrical engineering and mechanical and chemical engineering. The science fields are also very strong. We see a lot of students who are studying biology and chemistry and the like, also now going into industry and contributing even in a technology industries. I'll use one quick example and then we can move forward. When I first arrived in the United States, we didn't know anything about anything because my parents had not even graduated from high school. But I was very good at math. And so the logical conclusion was, let's send her to school to study math because she's very good at math. And then it was during that course of time that I discovered computer science. I had never seen a computer in my entire life. And so that's what's happening to so many of our students who are on island, who are not fully aware of what the various roles are that are available to them. And so we want to talk about that. You don't have to limit yourself only to what is on island, because we are also living in a global economy. We're living where, we are not defining ourselves anymore by where we live, the types of jobs that we can get. We can get jobs in just about any industry, in just about anywhere in the world, no matter what your location is. And so we have to be open to that as well. And finally, I want to say this, that there are also those who don't fit the category of a student, where now you're starting from scratch as a student and you can select your subjects and then a degree where you can do very well after you graduate. There's also this second economy, those who already probably had a career but are willing to be retrained, are willing to take what they have learned over the years to retool, to refocus their resumes. I don't know if it's called a resume here or a CV, but making sure that you represent yourself, because I see too many times, when people give me their resumes, that it's not really, it doesn't really speak to what it is that they know. And so there needs to be some training there as well, thinking about how can I sell myself? How can I enhance what I'm presenting to employers out on the internet so that they can notice me? And how can I retrain? Perhaps I want to switch careers. How can I do that so that I can make sure that I'm not only dependent on the jobs that are available here on island, but I can also make myself be seen across the board online so that employers can notice me and that they can be interested in me and even hire me, even though I'm living on the island. So these are some of the topics that we want to discuss today. I have been working in the software industry for more than 30 years, have hired, I would say, thousands of people in various roles. I started off as a software engineer, building software for robots, and then building software also for the telecommunications industry. And over the years, I've been exposed to so many disciplines, being a consultant in so many industries. The world has changed. It has changed dramatically, drastically, especially during this period of pandemic. Everyone is moving online. Every company is being forced to look at an online strategy, and it creates a great opportunity for those of us who are living in Dominica and those of us who probably want to even go back to Dominica and say, this is a place where I can live and I can probably work for a company abroad and do very well. We don't have to be dependent on just the economy that is right before us, that we can actually see, and we have to think beyond that.
So let's talk a little bit about some of those red hot jobs, Avanel, and then some of the big corporations that are employing, that are creating those job opportunities. Let's talk about those, because I think some of the young people who are listening now, they really are interested in that. Let's talk about some of that you're aware of.
So
And also the areas that they need to major in order to be able to qualify for those jobs.
that's right. And so there are, and I'm a little bit biased because I've been working in the tech industry for a long time, but the same applies also. If you just do a simple Google on jobs, high-paying jobs, you will see a lot of those are in the science fields. Like, for example, let's talk about nursing for just a minute. There is a tremendous shortage of nurses in the United States and around the world. And so what we see companies doing is that they are actually helping people to actually get visas so that they can, if you study nursing in school, you can immediately probably get a job. The same applies also for teaching, right? If you decide to go into education, there is such a shortage of teachers, and I can speak from the U.S. perspective, living in Boston, but there is just so much need for teachers that education departments are willing to say, okay, if you graduate with a teaching degree, we will sponsor you so that you could have, a visa, so that you could live and work in the United States. Many of these jobs are also, they are available online. So there's a lot of companies that will hire people who are well qualified. Of course, the key is to make sure that you present yourself well, and I know that we will talk about that a little bit later. And then as we move into technology and into the field of engineering and science and even biotech, I mean, the possibilities are endless. I have been so blessed, I would say, to be able to work as a consultant in so many different fields. And what I see is that there is a vast shortage of skills in certain areas. In fact, recently I started working on a platform, Salesforce. I just picked it up, and thank God for the wisdom that He has given me to pick up different languages. But if for example you get a certification in something like Salesforce, platform developer or something like that, or admin, or certification even in some of the Microsoft skill sets, if you get certified in that, there's just an immediate need for such skills. There is a vast shortage of, even in the computer science field, a lot of people will say, well, I don't want to sit in front of a computer all day staring at it. There are so many disciplines, and Bernard, I know that you will agree with me, because as a program manager, you see all of the different skill sets, business analysts and testers, QA testers, and even if we extend into engineering, electrical engineers, people who will, well, my very favorite, build robots. They will build circuit boards to put in switches for telecommunication. These days, even cars. I drive a Tesla. I just recently started driving one in December, and all that you see on the dashboard is just a computer screen, because everything is controlled these days by software in the auto industry, and all the disciplines that support it as well. Electrical, mechanical, chemical engineering, biotech, chemistry. If you do a combination of some computer courses and some biology courses or chemistry courses, you could work at biotech companies such as Genzyme. And I'm just throwing some names up. I know that others will have some input as well. So these are some of the red hot fields that are available for people to consider.
Yeah, and thanks a lot for beginning to introduce that, because I know the listener, many of the students who are listening, Bernard, that is what they want to know. Where are the opportunities? What do I need to major in? What fields in it? Because we see so often, we have so many people graduating with law degrees and they cannot get a job because there's too many laws. The market is saturated in Dominica, or medical degrees or certain degrees, and there's super saturation in the local market. So I think it's important to be able to identify the areas, the fields where you can measure in that, where the job opportunities are in abundance and the pay is good, and that you can work from remote. You don't even have to leave Dominica to go. Mm-hmm. If you don't want to, you can stay right at home and work for any company anywhere in the world. But let's talk about some of these other opportunities as well.
Before you go to Bernard, Mr. G,
let me say hello to listeners and to the fellow Dominicans and panelists and you, Mr. G. It's always a pleasure to come on the show and have a discussion.
Ou ça servi 10 cash pour voyer recevoir l'argent votre amis ou et puis famille. Fait paiement directement votre portable au computer. Fait paiement n'importe là où y est. Télécharger download application ça là Google Play Apple Store pour ça registrer visiter www.dcashec.com pour plus d'informations. Fiti dollar ici et digital à nous créer histoire ensemble.
After working hard for many years in London, Goldwyn is now retired and back living in Dominica enjoying his pension. He toujours smiles so we can see the gold teeth and toujours young. I met him coming out of Flosses with the help of some staff carrying different foods, drinks and meats to his vehicle. Myself too fast to go and ask the man what's up. Is their story start? Après moi fini travail word, so that Kadimo de San Dominic pour finir la hamwe. I said, Goldwyn, speak in English, don't force it. Then he said, I shop with intelligence, yeah? At Flosses, you get the most reasonable prices. For the bag flour, rice, sugar, milk, beers, soft drinks, water, rum, and so much more. Prices and quantities to fit your needs, mate. Because you just come down and want to tell me what I know about Flosses already. That's where I shop. It's not you alone that want to save money but still get the quality goods. That's right. And if you're listening to this ad, go and check out Flosses for yourself. Next to the Roseau Market. You can't miss it.
This is Asa Banton, your Tropical Water Ambassador, with your hurricane tip for today. Assemble disaster supplies. Have enough food and water for each person for at least 1 week. Stock up on all medication needed. Gas up your vehicle and hold extra cash on hand. Radios, batteries, and phone chargers are essential. Be prepared and remember to stock up on Tropical water.
All right, let's go back to our discussion here this afternoon. It's 1:24.
Yeah, Matt, let's go straight over to Bernard.
Yes. Bernard.
Yes, I was greeting the listeners and my fellow panelists. And as I say, as always, I think these are good shows. These are the things we need to have, the deep conversations about how to move Dominica forward. To your specific question, Mr. G, I like to think about it a little bit about my background. I'm more on the hardware side. Avanel is probably more on the software side. I'm a microchip engineer, so we develop the brains on which the software runs. We develop the smart world, and so I've spent most of my career over approaching 20 years now in that specific field, and I've actually seen it start pretty much from the beginning, because right out of graduate school I studied microelectronics and semiconductor engineering, As soon as I graduated, I joined a company in the US, and right at that time, 94 timeframe was when the internet was becoming a big thing. The World Wide Web was. The digital world was starting to become something, right? We were switching from analog to digital. We were going in that world. And I really was in on the entry floor of this. I saw my company almost triple in size. We developed all the initial smartphones for Samsung, for Apple. We developed all those microchips. So I really had an opportunity to see the world become a world. And what's interesting now is we're at another pivotal point, right? That pivotal point in the mid to late 90s was a pivotal point where we were really switching to the information economy, right? We were processing information, connecting computers, networking computers, driving the internet, social media, and those sort of things were coming. And that created a huge boom for the American economy, which really took off. Prior to that, the Japanese were right on the heels and threatened them, but it was an industrial economy, production of vehicles and so forth. And that is the context in which I like to talk about those things. They're really, if you look at it, and I also study economic history, that's why I have some background in this thing. We have three major revolutions that occurred in human history. The first one, technological revolution. The first one was the very, very pivotal one, the agricultural revolution. It led to civilization, it led to cities, it led to this sort of urban lifestyle that we now enjoy rather than the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. So that was the first industrial revolution, if you will, because agriculture is an industry in a sense. That was followed eventually many years later by the second industrial revolution, with technological revolution, which was the industrial revolution, right? The industrialization of the world, the capturing of inanimate power through steam engines and so forth that was able to power the world, drive the world forward in ways that had never been imagined. This led to an incredible increase in wealth, especially in Western Europe, and allowed them, in fact, to dominate the world. But it was as a result of this second industrial revolution, the harnessing of inanimate power for human needs, that allowed it to bloom. Then that continued on all through until the mid 60s, really, when we shifted then to the third industrial revolution, which was the digital, the computerization, right? The use of computers. And that allowed the world to really go on to do some fantastic things and to start using information as the driver of economic progress. And that continued all the way through, as I said, to the mid 90s. And that really was the information age. But now we are at a pivotal point, another turning point, another industrial revolution. It's called the fourth industrial revolution. And this has just emerged here in the last few years. And that's why it's so important for us to understand this as Dominica and not to miss another wave, right? I think we missed the information age. We should have been on this from the year 2000. We should have built our economy around those ideas, those concepts, trained our people, gotten our mindsets wrapped around this. But we missed that. I think we just had people that were leading and strategizing that were just not aware, thinking along those lines. But now we have another opportunity, as I said, because this is the fourth industrial revolution. So what is the fourth industrial revolution? Let's just get started. It is the extreme datafication and informification of the world. That means everything is going to be driven by data, analyzing data, understanding patterns, and applying that to everything in life. And applying that to your smartphone, to your refrigerator, to your shopping patterns, to your movie patterns. Everything in the world is going to have what's called a digital twin. That means you're going to have a physical object, but there's going to be data associated with that object that allows it to do many, many smart things that it cannot do now. And then you will have them all interconnected. So no longer will we simply have the internet of information, which we have now, computers talking to each other, but we will have the Internet of Things, IoT, where your refrigerator will be talking to your smartphone, your gas vehicle will be talking to your phone at home, your everything in your life will be connected in a network of things that are smart and able to communicate. And so that change is upon us. our vehicles will become, as Avenel said, rolling computers. They already are pretty much. They're self-parking now, and they'll be self-driving within a few years. And so everything now is going to be controlled by algorithms, information, and connectivity. And that is where a person, a young person, or any person really, that's looking to change their career, to position themselves and to take off on the next big wave that's going to drive trillions of dollars of wealth. If you're going to position yourself, that's where you need to position yourself as an individual. And I argue that's where we need to position ourselves as a nation. And that's a core part of my particular initiatives and with my party to make the public understand and to embrace and to see the realities that this is what we need to do to take our country to that destiny we always knew was possible.
Yeah.
So that is, in a nutshell, the high level where the jobs are, and I'll get into more details in a second.
Yeah, what I was going to ask you, maybe you can give us a few details now of the actual job opportunities you see in this new fourth revolution.
Right. So some specific jobs, for example, it really breaks down into a few things. You need to have connectivity, right? You need everything to talk to each other. The specific jobs there are things like cloud computing, understanding how to do virtual servers and to do connections of large computer resources at a distance. That's called cloud computing. Cloud computing engineers are in extreme demand right now. They are six-figure salaries. That means $100,000 plus is the average starting salary for someone getting into that after a few years experience. But on average, that's about what it averages out to. We're talking about things like cybersecurity. Now, when you have everything connected together, you have to be secure. You can't lose your information. You don't want people hacking in. So cybersecurity is another large area that has huge demand and exploding demand. And these are things, as Avenel said, that can all be done online. You can be a cloud computing engineer to connect things and put the architecture together remotely. You can do cybersecurity from wherever you stand in the world. The other big thing is data science, data analytics. Somebody needs to understand the statistics as well as the computer part of it, writing code, but understand statistics and domain knowledge, a specific area, let's say healthcare. And you put this together and you can now analyze data to really give you very useful insights on how to do things cheaper, faster, more efficiently. So data scientists are not a big part of the jobs. Other things are necessary though, things like virtual reality creators, people who create virtual reality applications, because more and more as you live in the virtual world, that's going to become more important. And then there's things called additive manufacturing. That is, you do print, you essentially designs, and you can print out products made of metal and those different side of things. So 3D printing, 3D manufacturing, smart manufacturing, the engineering staff, the computer staff, and the analysis staff to do those things are going to be big things. But Mr. G, it's not only the core technical people who are affected here. Even accountants need to understand and to make themselves accounting professionals with some data analytic ability. Legal people, health people, everyone is going to be affected by this. And so you need to, if you look at all the jobs, you'll see all new titles being added on. Healthcare analyst, analytical accountants, financial data miners, and so forth and so on. So everybody really who's looking to, if you have a passion for accounting, let's say, you don't need to despair and say, I don't have the drive or necessarily the interest in engineering. You too can be participating in the fourth industrial revolution by understanding what courses you need to do to augment that core set of accounting skills. So there are myriads of jobs. I could go on listing most of them, but all of them are built around the use of data and the use of software to do things much, much faster and much more efficiently than humans can do now.
Yes, and thank you for that, Bernard. Matt, you can see where we get into with this. You can see the kind of interest some of these young people who are listening out there can have, because you can see a whole range of new fields are opening up now in this fourth industrial revolution. And as Avenel said earlier, and I'm coming to you now, Winston, because you're the man on the ground who now is going to have to motivate some of the students now to consider those fields. But as Avenel said, now we already, when you get cars going down the road from now over the next 5 years, every car that you get now is going to have the this screen going all the way across the dashboard, and everything is going to be interactive, and you're going to be able to handle and control everything right from that dashboard. They're making those cars already, I believe. I think you're driving one. They're making them already. All these companies are making them. The thing is going all the way across the dashboard, and everything is controlled right there. So you can see, Winston, the opportunities, not only for the tech, but people like accountants and lawyers and all these people in administration. They are going to have to get new tools now to deal with this new revolution. There are opportunities there. So, Winston, you can see you're in an institution which is really on the cusp of this thing here. Isn't it time for us to start looking at it? Maybe your institution is already looking at that, which would be wonderful. But I think it's about time we started looking at that in great detail, great interest, and to try to motivate a lot of these young people to make them understand where the opportunities are. Look, Bernard is talking about 6 figures. You can see right there in Dominica and work for 6 figures. You're talking 100 and something thousand US dollars a year. Right there in Dominica and work for a company somewhere in the United States or in Europe. Winston, let me go over to you.
Okay, a pleasant good afternoon to our listeners, Dominica and abroad. And I'm pretty much in agreement with my colleague, Mr. Ito and Pastor Avanel. And like you said, Mr. Gregoire, I am well positioned at the Dominica State College as the head of the computer science department and also as a computer science math lecturer. I started at the Dominica State College in 2011, so it's about 11 years thereabout. And one of the things that we want our students in that area to understand that you cannot pursue a computer science degree, and at the end of that degree, you just a data entry clerk. I mean, come on. So, as you rightly say, that work it has already started at the Dominica State College. As a matter of fact, even as we were touching on some of the areas, Mr. Ito, you touched on some areas. One of the courses that we had last semester, ethics in technology, one of the final projects that the students were asked to do is to imagine and design a theoretically informed science fiction story of life regarding data protection in the year 2045, incorporating topics such as 6th and 7th sense technologies, virtual and augmented reality, internet governance, Internet of Things, robotics, blockchain, and artificial intelligence. So these were the areas that the students had to look into in terms of the project. And, you know, I was taken aback. The lecturer of that particular course, I mean, she sent me samples of the work that the students produced. So as Ms. Avanel and myself, we were talking earlier today, our students here are just as intelligent as any other students in the world. So we should look at those opportunities. One of the things, again, that I was very impressed about in terms of this particular, those projects, before we would look at areas like engineering and computer science, and they would be male-dominated fields. But we do have our females dominating, even at the Dominica State College, in areas of engineering and computer science. And I find that is commendable. So we are already working towards that, and we are already on board with that. We still have a few students still not understanding clearly why they are taking computer science. As a matter of fact, I had a situation where a young lady, she came to me for advice because she was having difficulty with a programming language. I mean, you're talking about her first semester computer course, and she was on the verge of dropping out. First computer language, and then I asked her a few questions. And why did you take IT? And she said, well, when I went on the internet, I researched jobs, and it seemed to be high-paying jobs, so I just took it. There are some other students that will tell you, well, okay, my friends are doing that particular subject, so but we have to be passionate about what we are doing. If you're going to be involved in computer science, you have to be passionate about what you are doing. You need to have a clear plan. You need to have a clear purpose. And these are some of the things that we want to instill in our students. As a matter of fact, we had a graduation ceremony in Portsmouth just on Friday. And I interacted with a young lady and I told her, well, okay, I might be seeing you at the Dominica State College in September. I tell her, do you have any idea what your major, what you're going to major in? And she told me, well, you know, I don't know. So we do have those issues. And I'm happy that we are here today so that we could just allow our students, and I hope that they are listening, to see the endless opportunities that there are in areas of science, in areas of computer science more specifically. I was doing a little read up just before we came here, and it just dawned on me that 25% of the jobs, professional jobs in North America, by the end of 2022, it's going to be remote. It's going to be remote work. And the trend is going to continue in 2023. So we need to look at those opportunities, and our students should not limit themselves to just this little geographical area. We need to let them understand that there are endless opportunities in the world out there. Thank you very much.
Can I touch, if you don't mind, on just a couple things that he said? Number one is that we should not just be introducing the students to these concepts at the state college level, but if we could start ingraining in them even at the high school level and maybe even, in elementary school, because if you ask kids these days, young kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Many of them don't have the foggiest idea. They don't know what is available to them, what the opportunities are. So we need to start incorporating some of that in even earlier than state. I would say even in our elementary schools. That's the first thing. I also wanted to touch a little bit on what Bernard said earlier, when he said that these skill sets that we have been discussing, they require an infrastructure in order for them to operate. So for example, if you do not have an interest in writing software to control the heads of robots, but instead you want to do finance, I think about my own son, Andrew, who graduated with a bachelor's degree in finance, making his six-figure income. He's just out of school for 3 years now, earning a six-figure income, working from home. In fact, I was trying to convince him to leave Boston and come down and join me for a week or two in Dominica so he could experience. So you don't have to study a tech field. You just have to be fully aware of the types of jobs that are available and how to go about finding them, how to make sure that you have a good profile set up, that you have a good CV set up, that you have the right connections.
So Matt, you can see where we're going with this. I know you might want to invite some of your listeners to call in and participate in the discussion. So just interrupt us anytime now, Matt, that you're ready, so you can take a few calls.
Yeah, we'll do that. Before we do, we're going to take another break. We'll come back, Dominica. We'll come back right after this, okay? So call us on 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, 616-4257. If you have any questions, any comments, feel free to do so. We're going to come back after this.
Bundle, floor. Bundle, save. Tap up, yeah. Tap up, mad. Chop up. Look at the place covered. Browse all you want. Post all you want.
Win big with Flow. iPads, smartphones, staycations, breakfast fed tickets, data, and over $15,000 in cash. Activate a 3, 7, or 30-day prepaid combo plan. Pay up your bill. Switch to Flow. Bundle up for your chance to win every day.
Bundle, yeah. Bundle, save. Tap up, yeah. Tap up, mad. Chop up. Look at the place covered. Browse all you want. Post all you want. Look at the place covered. Do what you want. Watch all you want.
Bundle now and get a smartphone for free. Switch now.
Creole Hypit announces Gala's Lipso Tribute Festival ticket special. Available now at Val Ferry in Roseau. Nightly tickets, $40 EC. Season tickets for only $100 EC. Get your tickets now for a limited time only. Ticket outlet, Val Ferry, opposite Palace in Roseau. Show love for your musical patrimony. Support the world's greatest genre. Galas, well, amen. Are you whining so? You're swinging your waist.
What does a coffee lover like me desire? Everything a cup of Cafe Brazil delivers. I need a coffee that's smooth. I need a coffee that's rich. I need a coffee bursting with flavor. You see, coffee isn't just a drink, it's an experience. At least when it's Cafe Brazil.
Indulge in the distinctive flavors of perfectly blended Robusta and Arabica coffee beans. Cafe Brazil. Taste the smooth, rich difference. Try our new Cafe Brazil Gold Coffee today.
Calling all bus drivers. All bus drivers. Auto Trade has a crazy deal for 2022. Be your own boss, busman. Come in, talk to us, drive up in a brand new Nissan Irvine for a low payment of only $72 per day. I repeat, $72 per day. As low as $1,995 monthly. Calling all bus drivers. This is for a limited time only. Offer ends March 31st, 2022. Terms and conditions apply. Auto Trade. It's more than a vehicle. It's a relationship. Why?
The hurricane season is upon us, and securing your home in the event of a storm or hurricane should be your top priority. You'll need high-quality foam ply that can be used over and over, and that's the quality you get from Asafans Home and Building. For a limited time, save over $60 on every sheet of foam ply purchased. Yes, you heard right. You'll be saving over $60 because the reduced price is now $168. Not only is it at a low price, but the quality is great. Hurry on down to Asafans Home and Building, located at Focal Industrial Site, or give them a call at 255-2760 or 255-2770 for more info. Ask about the free delivery.
I wake up in the morning. From the Milky Way, a timeless treasure has found its way on every breakfast staple in Dominica. A delightful promise is being kept, and now everybody is drinking Promex. Promex full cream instant milk. Morning by morning, give your family a refreshing start to a productive day. Promex milk. It's pleasingly, teasingly, surprisingly delicious. Blends well with your choice teas, cereals, coffee, or all your family-friendly recipes. Promex. Good nutrition all day long. Promex milk. Every mother's favorite milk. Taste the moments that take your breath away. Promex. Available from AC Shillingford and retailers island-wide. AC Shillingford, where you spend less and get more.
The Cultural Division, in collaboration with the African Students Association of All Saints University and GASCA, present Afro-Artistic, a celebration of our African heritage from music, fashion, dance, and cuisine on Saturday, July 9th at the Old Mill Cultural Center, starting at 5:30 p.m. with a culinary tasting of traditional African cuisine and local Afrocentric craft by the Dominican Craft Association. From 6 p.m., there will be a fashion show featuring traditional and contemporary African wear with live performances by Mary Pascal and the MP Combo, D3 dancers, House of Nyabingi, Abia, Tibwa, and the original DJ cut from Bucktown. Pa Machesame Simidam Sakai Malat.
All right, Dominica, we are back. And again, we want to invite you to call in if you need to, or if you want to make a comment or two. Feel free to call 449-3095-96 and 97. This is the Talk on the Block, 616-4257. Mr. G, let me get back to you. If the calls are coming in, I will let you know. Back to you.
Yeah, well, you can just interrupt us anytime. Once if you have a call, Matt, we're happy to take the calls. But Matt, earlier on we asked the question, if we're going to build this national global network of talented Dominicans focused on building that knowledge economy. I mean, I listened to I think it was Mr. Etienne, who said that our students are as intelligent as those anywhere in the world. But I would dare to say this. What I have noticed, Mr. Etienne, is that a lot of the students that we send to study in the United States, they excel. Many of them come up on top of the class, and some of them move on to get very high profile jobs. Some of them are earning six figures. So, Mr. Etienne, you're not far-fetched there at all. But I mean, in terms of answering the question, why build our economy based on minds, right, which are more resilient than in the fields, and how and where do we start? And, what do we need to do to get started? I want to acknowledge some of the persons who are on Facebook following us and on YouTube. And you see, I had a couple of comments there. One of them says, well, you can begin by linking the theory with the practice, and look at internship programs, for example. These are some of the suggestions that are coming. I'm not sure where the college is on that. I'm not sure where the UWI open campus is. I would really love to engage Dr. Kimon, Joseph on this as well. I know she has interest in those fields. I really like.
Hold on, Mr. G. Hold on. Somebody's calling in there. Let me see if I can take that call. Are you there, caller?
Yes, Mr. Peltier. Good afternoon. How are you doing? To you, Mr. G, and the rest of the guests in the studio, trying to uplift the betterment of the people. Mr. Peltier, I've been listening, and I keep hearing the numbers thrown around, which is very important. But I want to keep one thing in mind of the people and the people on the panel. There are companies who will pay big money in the United States. And even within the borders of the United States, when you move from one jurisdiction to another, if you move, like I would use, for example, the gentleman from Boston. You move from Boston making a certain amount of money and you move to a state like Tennessee, where the cost of living is cheaper and less expensive. A lot of companies will adjust your wages to that market. You might not be making the same money you make in Boston. This is not to dissuade anyone, but we just have to put it real, because a lot of people go into certain things with certain expectations, and when reality hits, they feel kind of disgruntled or whatever word you might choose. But this is just a part of the reality. I want to say a couple of other things. As far as Mr. Ito, he made a very, very important point. If we're going to invest into this kind of things and have our people invest into this thing, infrastructure is very important. Because I brought that up last week. A gentleman called you and asked you if Guinness World Book of Record had anything good on Dominica. Yes, Guinness World Record in Dominica is the world's first fully digital nation. That was back after Hurricane David, when they built that. I don't know where it's at now, but I'm saying that we had a chance to be, like Mr. G said, one of the best places to be in, to be able to work remotely. And finally, I'd like to say to everyone that in every field, like the one from Boston State, in every field, listen to me, every field that you're going to be working in the future, you're going to be able to use a computer. If you are not able to use a computer, you're in what is called IT or AI. You will not be able to work, period. You will be a dinosaur, like most people are already. I'm saying that because I know for a fact. When I first started in mechanic in auto body field, which is most people think auto body men are not that educated or you don't need education. That word has changed from what it used to be to what it is now. Today, if you're working on a vehicle and you're not computer literate, you cannot get it. Or if you are not computer literate, your wages are less. Because in that field, you have to be able to use a computer. There are lots of computers in all vehicles, like the Tesla he just spoke of. You can't just go to anyone to work on your car. You have to be certified by Tesla. So we're talking about a future that if you don't get on board, you'll be left behind. Thank you very much. I'm listening. Great conversation.
All right. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Yes, Matt, I was saying that people are making those comments, so we need to respond to that. The latest comment I have is somebody says we have a primary production side problem. I imagine they're talking about agriculture and agribusiness. How can we use IT to enhance primary production, agribusiness, agri-processing, tourism, etc.? I mean, this is some of what Abner was talking about. But Bernard, let's go over to you. Maybe you can want to contribute to some of those as well. But where do we start? Because here we are at this point in time, and the young people need to see something tangible. If, for example, there is the opportunities for internship programs, and where they can actually link that theory to the practice, I think that is something tangible that they can they wrap their arms around. They can see. Let's talk about that a little bit, Bernard.
Certainly. Let's respond a little quickly first to the caller's concerns about the salaries. He's absolutely right that salaries do vary across the United States based on your location and the cost of living there. And certainly, we would not expect equivalent salaries to be paid in Dominica to what is paid in the United States, because the whole point of outsourcing work is because it's cheaper, right? But we should encourage that. But what you have to keep in mind is, even if I pay you $40,000 US in Dominica, you're probably that's over 10, 11,000 EC dollars a month. You're probably still one of the top earners in Dominica. It's nothing comparable. If we could outsource jobs at 30,000 US dollars, which is almost a third, almost a fourth of what would be paid in the United States, you'd still be in the top 1% of earners in Dominica. And if we could do this broadly across thousands of people, we would transform our country into a first world nation within 10 years. So you got to keep in mind the scope of what we're talking about. And honestly, somebody earning 30,000 US dollars in Dominica lives like a king, right? You don't have the sort of expenses that you do in the United States. So you have to keep that in mind as well. So it all translates into an extremely good standard of living, even if you cut it by a third to attract the companies to do the work here, which is what we need to do.
Are you there, caller?
Yes, good afternoon, Matt. Very good program.
Good afternoon to you.
To the panelists, what I've found, and I've done the research on it, what I've found with these online jobs out of the U.S., they require you to have a U.S. address or a U.S. Social Security or a U.S. something, and it's not open to everyone who lives in the Caribbean. So how can you separate the two? To the panelists on the program, how do you find jobs that you can work on in Dominica, for example, when you don't have any U.S. posting, any U.S. credentials at all? Thank you very much.
So I would like to address this. I have worked as a software consultant since 2012, so I'm constantly looking at what's on the job market. There are many, many, many websites that are specifically geared towards people who are working remotely. And so if you are applying for just a regular job that they require you to be on site, you're probably looking, if you want to live in Dominica, you're probably looking in the wrong place. And so if a simple, Google remote jobs will show you some of the jobs where they're looking for folks working remotely. Secondly, very important, I actually came to Dominica with the intent of looking to see if we could, have some sort of structure where we can have some of this work outsourced. You can actually go through agencies. A lot of these agencies, so I am an agent myself. A lot of these agencies will hire people, and you just have to know where to look. That's the key. If you go through agencies, you're not working directly for the company, you're working through an agency. They might take, a certain percentage, whatever it's like if in anything that you do. But the key is to make sure that you're looking in the right place. So start off, in the right place. I, as a program manager, and I know you know this, Bernard, a lot of these jobs are going out, they're being outsourced to India, right? They're being outsourced to other third world countries. Dominica doesn't even appear on the map anywhere, and this is an area where we can, if we can build an infrastructure, I go back to that, where we can say, okay, we have agents in Dominica. You don't have to worry about this person needing a social security number. We'll take care of all of that for you. The infrastructure has to be there. There has to be some kind of thought put around that. And then, you bypass all of those requirements for, a US visa or to be living permanently here. But start by, doing a Google search for remote jobs. There's also a number of freelance jobs that are available. Like even right now, for some of the work that I'm doing, I go to freelancer.com to look for people who live in like Bangladesh and India and other places who are willing to work remotely.
Let's take another phone call. Hello, yeah?
Yes, good day. Great program, Matt.
Hmm.
And one of the clients called and said, you need a social security. No, you just got to search because I live in Dominica and I've been working remote for going to 2 years now since I came back. So you just have to search and have the drive to search for remote jobs. And it's a very good program. I've been encouraging my friends to get into the remote work. I'm a financial consultant. So I work for different U.S. companies in Boston and California.
I think we may have lost you here.
Yeah,
But
but
thank you for
very
your
good. I mean, what
contribution
the
here
caller
this
is saying is
afternoon,
true, and what Avnan
Mr.
said
G?
is true as well.
Yes?
Are we on the call?
No, you were not on the call. I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. And so, but the other thing we have to consider is we have to also, this might be the first phase where we get people to individually look for jobs online and so on. And I highly encourage that. But my vision for this thing is even bigger than that, and kind of addresses what you talk about, Mr. Gregoire, in terms of what do we do here? As a nation, we need to have a national policy to create a knowledge economy where we create companies here in Dominica that actually has the trained talent, executives from Dominicans who have done this work, who have lived overseas, who have managed these things, who have built companies, who have built departments, right? Who can actually come home and found these companies. For example,
but
one
let
of
me
us comes home
stop you and ask you a question,
from a
Bernard. Don't you think that we
cybersecurity
need to
company.
have
We
the
hire Dominicans to do the
conducive
work.
environment to encourage that? Are you there, Bernard?
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but did you hear my question? Don't
No,
you think
could
that
you
you
repeat
need the conducive environment to encourage that? Do we have that in Dominica?
Well, there are different environments, right? There's a technological environment, there's a political environment, and the social environment. All of this must be tackled. I think the political environment is something that does inhibit us from developing this sort of open technological meritocratic society that we need the best people to do the job. Politics does prevent that from happening. But I think the private sector and private initiative have to simply break out of that and establish companies that allows people to grow and develop talent, train the right talent, bring in the resources, bring in the investors, bring in the venture capitalists. But you need people who can actually walk in the halls of these industries overseas. You need people who have worked in those industries, who can cut the deals, who can talk the language, who can get the investors on board, who can make the pitches and make it work. And that's the sort of things we need to do because we have the talent, we have the Dominican talent to do it. I'm telling you, there are many Dominicans teaching at Ivy League colleges, running large departments. Some Dominicans are running national organizations in certain companies, in IBM and so forth. For in the United States, it's Fortune 500 companies. We have talent, we have people to do it. But we need, as you said, the right environment. But that is something that we're going to have to push through. And then, you know my position. Eventually, we're going to need this sort of political leadership that understands these issues, prioritizes issues, and builds an economy and builds a vision of our country along those principles and have the talent within the governmental structure and within the leadership of the government has the talent and the vision to make these things real. That's a long conversation, Matt, but I do agree that part of it
we're
is
lacking, and
environmental.
of course, a lot of you will agree out there. In terms of production industry, we are lacking that area. How can we use? How can we tap the resources that we have on the outside to make this a reality? Huh? Are you there?
I'm there. I'm listening, and that is the strategy. And there are a lot of people working on this right now to build what I refer to as the seamless Dominica. Right? We need to stop thinking about Dominica as ending at the shoreline. Dominica extends across the globe. If you look at India, they have grasped that concept a while ago that India extends around the globe, and so Indians around the globe develop talent You call it brain drain. We typically think of brain drain, or
Mhm.
people go away and we lose them. But we should think about it as brain train. Our people go into these companies, train themselves, become senior enough, and return to build the sort of economy that we need, which is what India has done. India has built a fantastic infrastructure and a fantastic human infrastructure, but a lot of it came from the diaspora Indians who have developed this expertise and are returning with that expertise, human capital and financial capital to build these companies. And that's what we need to do. But again, we need the right sort of people who understand that vision and to convince our people on island that it is a united vision that we can all get behind, because it's to our tremendous benefit to do so.
All right, let's take another phone call there. Yes, the telephone calls are coming in there. But the numbers there, I'll get back to you there, now. Let's take a phone call. Yeah?
Yes, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
It's me again, my brother. I just want to add another positive to the conversation, and based on the pronouncement of the.
And make it short, because we need to get other callers in.
Yeah, well, let me say this real quick. We see India as dominant in this IT business, in technology. India has a program and schools that where they have children from early age on go to this school. These schools are engineering schools. So if we could duplicate these things, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You have schools that teach children from early on to get into this kind of field. And this is why they are so dominant. So I just want to put that in the space. All right.
So what are your thoughts on that, Mr. Etienne?
Yeah, Mr. Etienne?
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I pretty much agree. One of the things, though, I wanted to touch on before it slips me. Mr. Gregoire, you mentioned, I think on the Facebook page, somebody mentioned the internship. And I think that was hitting the nail right on the head, in the sense that our internship program in computer science at the Dominican State College, it was impacted by the pandemic. But rest assured, I can say that come this semester, we will be implementing our internship program in computer science.
Well, that's excellent. Matt, one of the things that I've noticed, for example, is that when you listen to some of the Americans, especially on the Republican side, you hear them talk about immigration and so on. But when you think about it, a lot of the folks who work in this tech field, a lot of these people in the Silicon Valley, most of these people are foreigners. Most of them are immigrants. If you have to send all these people back home, you very likely might not have this vibrant Silicon Valley in the United States. So these people now go back to India, they go back to their countries, and they form their own Silicon Valley. I'm saying this to say that there are people like Avanel and Bernard and hundreds of other Dominicans who are out there. And there's so many young Dominicans, I'm sure that Mr. Etienne can vouch for that, who have the capacity, the mental capacity to be able to achieve at those levels. We can see it because we see students going to Midwestern and some of these other universities, and they're coming up on top of the class, top of the game. I think we have to look at what Bernard is saying and create that dynamic policy environment, put it into the schools at a very early age. I think, yes, from the elementary schools. You have to put it in there. I mean, when you look at schools in the United States, for example, they teach music, they teach all kind of things right from the elementary schools. You start right from there. So some students form a whole band right there in the school and they go out and make a living. So what I'm saying is this, that we need to incorporate that if we really look at that fourth industrial revolution, if we take it seriously, and we should. I listened to some of our service providers like Flow and Digicel saying that we're on the cutting edge. We have all what it takes in terms of cable and so on to bring in. I think we should use that, right? I think we should make use of that and build that economy. So, Avanel, I want to go back to you, but Matt, I don't know how much more time we have because you'll guide us on that. But I want to go back to Avanel to take a look at that, because Avanel, you are right there as one of the managers of programs like that. You heard Mr. Winston talking about the apprenticeship program. What more do we need to do to create that better enabling policy environment, and also to put the infrastructure in place that you've been talking about?
Mr. G, before I go to Avanol, I want to ask you a question specifically. You know, as a professional, that there are many people, many professionals who have been trying and knocking the doors. Just going back, referencing the point I made earlier, what do these professionals do at this time? Is they not being encouraged to participate? I know consultants out there who've been trying but not getting the kind of encouragement that they need to do what you're asking for. Yeah.
Well, you're quite right, Matt. But you remember Bernard spoke about a few things here. He spoke about the technical, the political, and other constraints. It's, you know, in fact, I think he's saying that the political is one of those constraints in order to create that enabling environment. Because if you have Dominicans, like, let us say, Avanel, like Bernard, like some of the people who are really in the, whether it's the medical field or whatever field of finance, accounting, you heard somebody say they've been back for 2 years and they're doing working remotely. We need to create that political environment, that whole policy environment. It has to include the political environment. It has to enable that so that our expertise coming from outside, Dominicans out there who have the qualification, the experience, the knowledge, and want to come back and do exactly what we're talking about there. The political environment has to embrace them and allow them to come in and do that. That is absolutely, I agree with you 100%, Matt.
Let's go back to Havana.
So I like to talk about the practical. So I just want to share with you what it is that I do and how I go about doing it. So right now, as a software consultant, I have opportunities to go directly to executive level managers and to get contracts. A lot of these larger companies in the United States, especially through the federal government, they have a mandate. In other words, they are required to give a certain percentage of their contracts to people who are considered to be underprivileged. I don't consider myself underprivileged, but you know what? If they're offering me a contract, I'm going to take it. And so the prohibitor for me is, like everybody else, it's finding resources, finding human resources to actually do the work. So that's where, like with every other company, there's such a shortage of staff right now. So I'm falling short. So I'm not able to go out there and find the resources that I need. So I came down to Dominica with the intent. I'm like, okay, why don't we see what we can do? Why don't we see if we can perhaps set something up on island? And honestly, I will be honest with you, I am apolitical, so it doesn't matter to me. I'm just all about, business. How do we have impact on island? Some of the things that I observe very early on is that we also have to have a mindset change. There's got to be a paradigm shift, and it has to start again from the very, very early ages. I think culturally we have been trained in a certain way to think a certain way, and that has to change. So we need to start at the very, very early ages. As we look at this changing economy, we can no longer just look at tourism, look at hospitality as the only options that we have, or agriculture, right? So we have to look at what are the other options that we have out there, and how do we prepare our young people? How do we prepare our students? And even for those who are looking to make career changes, I have had many, many people just retool their resume, repurpose it, and suddenly they are in a six-figure job. And I will say this about six-figure jobs, because I am in the market on a constant basis, that especially in the advent of pandemic, it really doesn't matter where you live. The way you get paid right now, you are working remotely, is based on what your skill set is. And it's not as important anymore to say, I live in Tennessee, and so therefore I'm going to take a 50% pay cut. The world has changed drastically, especially in this age of remote work. And yes, indeed, to Bernard's point, you won't be paid as much if you live in another country, for example, but you will be, at the top of the pay scale. So that's extremely important. So making sure that, first of all, that the people, that they're not only getting an education, or students are not just getting an education, but there also has to be a cultural mindset. I tend to work with a lot of Indians. I love working with them because they're not only brilliant, the ones that I work with, but they're trained on how to understand the culture within which they work. so that they can not just be productive and do work, but they're also making sure that they please the end client, which is the company that they're working for. So that's extremely important. And then the second thing, I tend to be someone who just likes to do stuff, is so how does one find the resources? You are on the island, you are looking for resources. Even I told Mr. Gregoire that I also do ministry work. I have an entire ministry, church ministry. That's why I was referred to as Pastor Avenel, running 100% online, more than 3,000 followers, using technology. That's the platform, right? Technology seeping into absolutely everything that you do. So there I am looking for resources. How do I find these people? Who do I go to? These are the kinds of infrastructure that we need to have in place on the island to support the people who want to come back, who want to actually hire people. It's not enough to just look at one's resume and say, oh, this person has a 4.0 grade point average, so I'm going to hire that person. There's a lot more that needs to be done. There needs to be, again, the points of contact that you go to, making sure that people are trained, making sure that your resume, your CV is well written, because as you're flipping through those resumes, if you're not impressing, I'm just going to move on to the next person. I don't have time to be looking around trying to help you to build your resume, right? That's one of the key things I found that was missing on the island, is that the students, they will graduate and they'll have excellent grades, but then they don't really know how to represent themselves. They don't know how to present themselves, how to present their profile, your online profile. Extremely, extremely important. I said to somebody, are you on LinkedIn? And they said to me, what's LinkedIn, right? Making sure that it's not just the skills, engineering skills, biotech, whatever it is, but also making sure that the soft skills, that they are also developed as well.
Yes, Bernard, I wanted to hear from you a little bit more on some of those things, because it seems to me we come into the crunch of this. We have to be real practical, real pragmatic about it. You have students who really need a lot of guidance. And as I'm sure Mr. Winston Etienne will tell us, many of the students need guidance. I'm sure he has provided a lot of that for many of them. But the environment in which they develop in, it's not so much that people are talking about those skill sets that we're talking about here. No, we're talking more about the traditional areas, Bernard, like, agriculture. We're talking about medicine. We're talking about law. We're talking about accounting and so on. But we're not talking about them in the way that they can apply to this new fourth industrial revolution. And so it seems to me that that language has to change. But I think, like the person who was on Facebook is saying, not only the language has to change and the students have to understand and to be able to make the connection, but it's important that for them to see something practical and tangible that they can wrap their arms around. You see, when I listen to Avenel, she's saying, I am a program manager. I am doing so and so, and here is what is happening. Here is who's making what. Here is what you can do to prepare. Here's what you can do to fix your profile, to improve on it so you can impress, so you can make a difference and get a job and be given, get to the top of the line. I think this is what they're looking for. And then, of course, we did hear from Winston. He said that, yes, there is this program, this internship program that they're going to resume. But I think it's important to get that going very, very quickly. And it needs to, this program here, I don't know how far it went. If I don't know what firms you're looking at where you could find internships for those students, but it seems to me that what we're talking about is creating this international network, because you see some of this internship, it can be done online. So,
Mr. G, hello, are you there?
Good afternoon, Mr. Pelty. How are you today?
Good afternoon to you.
Thank you for taking my call. Great program. I chose to call because some of the stuff you guys have spoken about is reality, but a lot of them are easier said than done. I can speak from my experience. As many of you know, I own my business in the U.S. and in the science world. And I've worked in trying to get people from Dominica to work. And it's very difficult to get people some of those degrees to work. But here's something that listeners need to be aware of. The program for getting people from Dominica to come to the United States to work, it's one of these things. There's a lottery system. Actually, as I speak right now, I have 2 people pending on cases to enter. But if you miss the lottery between February and May, you're going to have to wait till the following year to apply. And there's a loophole where they put this pool and they pick people from different fields.
But I don't think we're talking about the lottery here. We're talking about persons getting opportunities to work online. I think you must have missed the earlier discussion. I don't think we're talking about the lottery, which is very important, but the opportunities to work online. This is what I think Avanel and the guest, Mr. G, and everybody else has been talking about.
Yeah, but what I'm saying.
But go ahead, Avanel. You saying?
That is correct. I don't know what the reference is to a lottery system. I'm talking about people who have majored in certain disciplines. So, for example, in nursing, in teaching, you have in the sciences, you have those skill sets, and perhaps you want to choose to live in the United States. So there is a certain visa category that you can use to actually apply that degree towards, so that you can have a green card. And then there's also companies who, on a constant basis, I mean, I even did it back in the years, just sponsoring people on H-1 visas. That's what I'm talking about, really, if you want to work in the United States. So that's where we're
Are you there? Are you connected?
I heard you guys, but what I'm saying is there's two sides to this. That's why I explained about the lottery system first.
Okay.
Now there's this other program where people can work online, which is correct. But here's the issue with it. When you're working from line and with a US job, you have to have some sort of tax number for the company to pay the taxes and all that stuff. So the opportunity is there, but I think the bigger picture is that we need to look at the colleges in Dominica. Some of those classes offered. How many people in Dominica can get into this program? Because, like, for example, I'm not picking up the general who's in charge of the college in Dominica. No, I know the guy well. I visited him in Bermuda. I spent a lot of time in Bermuda. I know the guy. But the truth is, in my opinion, I believe Dominica State College did better when it was a technical college than now, because a lot of the programs they're offering now is already leading people into internship in Dominica right away. Whereas the technical colleges was leading people into that. So we have to look to the drawing board where the college, the bachelor's degree, are they even giving a bachelor's degree? So the work need to look at, the government need to look at the college, the education system. What do we need people into? I mean, it's just like so many things that can be done at that college to get better people to what you're talking about. I agree with what you all are saying, but you need to go back to the drawing board where the classes must be, or some of those classes have to be offered into the college, and the education system have to synchronize actually into from the elementary, primary school, goes up into the high school and give people that opportunity where you can have like a STEM program. People want to go into the science and math and they can do that. But unless we do that, we can talk about one. The education system in Dominica has to be able to provide that opportunity for people. That's kind of what I wanted to clarify. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much. Any comments at this time, Mr. G?
I was going to respond to Mr. G, and I'll just respond on a couple of the points that were brought up.
Okay.
I prefaced my comments earlier with this has to be a national strategy. I am not simply envisioning that we do a few people working online, right? Trying to figure out their way through the thing and find a few online jobs. I'm talking about Dominica developing itself into becoming a fourth industrial revolution powerhouse. That is, we become Silicon Island in software in different ways. I'm not talking about, so in order to do that, you actually have to retool your education system completely. You have to have it focused on that, laser focused on that vision. It's all about vision. We have to get up every day as a people and say, we're going after that vision. And part of that vision has to be the political leadership, as you said, Mike, to say, we are defining from kindergarten to the college what our vision is to produce the sort of human capital we need to be that powerhouse. And we're not simply looking to get a few jobs online, and we will do that in the interim, but what we're looking to do is to create companies, to create technological companies in Dominica who can do this work, who can then work with companies in the United States as colleagues, as partners, as global partners, because the world, the corporations in the world are global companies now. They have departments all over the world. They have vendors all over the world, and we become vendors, partners, collaborators with our own Dominican companies, with our own trained personnel to do that kind of work and to establish ourselves on the stage of humanity, not just as consumers of technology, but as producers. That's the sort of vision which we have to have. And I know we can do it. We can do it. Why? Because I work with a lot of technological Dominicans all over the United States. I mentor at the Midwestern State University and guide students to perform very well. In fact, the top technical students at Midwestern State University is almost always a Dominican. And not just at the Midwestern State University, across the spectrum, at Yale, at Harvard, at MIT, at the very top, at Stanford, the very top schools in Dominicans, some of the best performing students are Caribbean students and often Dominican students. We have the cultural, we have a very valuable cultural attribute, which is our ability and desire to learn. We take education seriously. We take learning seriously. We are trained through our system to be serious about education, and that serves us very well. But that serves us very well for this world that has got knowledge economy. Now we're well positioned emotionally, culturally, to take advantage of that, because that's what we're primed to do, to learn and to do well at academics. And so that is a very valuable asset we have as Dominicans. We have to capitalize on it. We have to convert our entire economy from bottom to top. Yes, we completely have to retool the Dominican State College. There's no doubt about it. We have what we have now. We have to work with it, but it has to become an institution that is well recognized in the region for producing top technical talent. You got to retool it. You got to have new programs in cybersecurity, data mining, all those things.
Good afternoon to you.
Good
Yes.
afternoon to Mr. G and to Brother Bernard Ito and the other guests. Matt, in addition to making the computer science technology subjects, of course, is part of our school curriculum as part of the national policy, as Bernard articulated early on. One of the things that we seriously have to consider, Matt, because it's something that Chris Roberts and I did way back in 1994, is to have an annual computer show or a show on a technological festival where we would get a place, if it's the Goodwill Parish Hall or some reasonable location, where we can have a whole set of computer and computer software, and you have the engineers and you have the people displaying to the young people and giving them a hands-on experience, Matt. And that would go a long way in terms of getting children, young people interested, getting them to know exactly the various fields that are involved.
So, Brian, just quickly, so what happened to the program? You said 2004?
In 1994, under Mr. Rupert Sorrento, we held it in Marigot, and it was sponsored by the National Bank of Dominica. We had people like Burgess Xavier and Clifford Gibbons and so on assisting us to put on that presentation. We had over 100 and something computers there doing all type of applications. We had schools coming in from around the country to visit us because we ran the fair over a 3-day period. But Mark, soon after, I had to go to Texas and so on, and that didn't continue because, and then from that, Mark, we set up a computer lab in the St. Mary's Academy, Chris Roberts and myself, to try to get the schools to incorporate that into their curriculum. We also set up one at Will Strathmore School in Marigot. So to try to get the people, the government involved in terms of moving the technology in the way that it should be used. So we need to consider major fairs and so on, get all the business houses involved together. Bernard would be a perfect person to coordinate a fair of that type of that nature, Matt. Thanks a lot for the opportunity, Matt.
Thank you very much. Any comments at this time? Mr. G, back to you.
Excellent contribution. I wanted to go before because I know the thing was directed at Bernard, and I know Bernard will do an excellent job with that. But I want to go back to Avenel because you see some of the suggestions that are there. You see, Avenel is in the business now, and let's hear you respond to some of that, Avenel.
Right. So as Bernard was talking, I was thinking to myself, there is a short-term vision that we have to put in place. We have to tactically do something now. And then there's also the longer term vision as well. And I want to go back and address a couple of things that was said earlier. For example, when I am looking to hire people, I'm looking to hire students from the various schools in the Boston area. What I do is I go on a website. It's called handshake.com. And I post my job listing there. And all of the students, they're signed up to see those jobs because the school has this agreement with this website, and so the students can go in, they can see the jobs that are listed, and they can apply, and that's done across the board. If you're looking for an internship, if you're looking for a perhaps a little part-time gig, you can go as a student, because the colleges have this, they have this relationship with this website. So perhaps we can start there. If we have students who we want to match up with jobs, that's something perhaps that the college or maybe even the high school can look at. Some of the jobs that I have available are even for high schoolers. I've been talking to some of them, which, by the way, I'm just finding randomly, because it hasn't been easy to find them to interview. So I want to talk about also those who are perhaps you're not a student, but you have certain skills, and short term, because where people are looking for, they're looking for help anywhere. There are sites like, if you choose to be a freelancer, for example, you could sign up. There are so many sites, freelancer.com, I mentioned that earlier, where you can just go up, register, set up your profile. They will take some of your money, but you're unemployed. Half a loaf is better than no bread. So you go and you represent yourself well. You make sure that maybe you need a little bit of training on how to set up your profile, and then you just expose yourself. You make yourself available. So shorter term, there are solutions that are available for those who are unemployed. I don't know what the unemployment rate is right now, but I'm assuming that there are a few people who are unemployed who would like to have some jobs right now, right? So why don't we put some of these things into practice right now? And then longer term, Bernard is absolutely correct. We need to have a plan that propagates all the way through, even starting in grade school, because a lot of these kids, I understand, some of them were on Zoom taking remote classes. Let us incorporate some of these technologies into the grade schools. Let's carry it forward into the high school. So let's look at what are the jobs that are coming up on the horizon in the next year, in the next 5 years, and prepare our population to make themselves available for those jobs, to give them the skill sets that they need in order to qualify.
All right, let's take a phone call. Are you there, caller? Hello? I suspect your line is very terrible here. I'm hearing you, but faintly. Yeah, you have to call me back. Try another line. We have 449-3095-96 and 97, 616-4257. So try another line. All right. Hello, talk to me. No, again, the numbers 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097. Mr. G, I suspect we'll have to continue with that conversation because a lot of calls are coming in. So let's go back to you, Mr. G.
Yeah, Matt, I suspect we have to continue. I know time is not on our side right now.
I suspect I'm going to allow you to use the remaining time. So we can go until 3 o'clock. Go ahead.
Yes. What we would do, Matt, if there is that kind of interest, and I think there ought to be, because it's a new horizon, it's a new platform that is going to leapfrog us into where we're supposed to be. I think maybe we may have to continue if we can. I know that Avenel has to travel. So if we need to, Matt, if you would allow us to use a little bit more of your time on Wednesday afternoon, maybe 1 to 2, or we could do something there again. We'll see if it's necessary and if it's possible. But Bernard, I wanted to go back to you because you see what the callers are saying, and the last caller made a very good point about this exhibition, because you have to have something tangible that people can wrap their arms around. They go to that exhibition, they can see the practical application of those things. Somebody's there to guide them and lecture them. And this is the kind of work that Winston has been doing at the college. So in fact, that fits right into the kind of thing that I'm sure you'd find of great interest. This is a practical thing, pragmatic thing that students can wrap their arms around. So, but let's talk about that again. And of course, it is absolutely necessary, but in terms of the medium and long term, we must have a plan to prepare to take advantage of this new thing that is coming on here. This is where the world is going.
Before we get to you, Bernard, let's take a phone call. We need to be very interactive. Hello?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, I may have joined late, but I don't know whether you discussed that. But one of the things I think is very important is the broadband infrastructure. If we can have the government or some major company would have to invest huge amount of money in internet, so our work can be more reliable because we are working online, and in this global community, speed is everything. So I think that focus has to be placed on that. Probably 200 million US dollars to invest in getting proper broadband. I don't know if you discussed that, but this is just an idea. Thank you.
Broadband, can we speak to that?
What are your thoughts? Yeah, and
Yeah. Well, in terms of the figure, I may not be able to verify how much, but definitely that is very significant. I'm not too sure in terms of the mobile penetration. What is the percentage like? But I believe that's an area definitely. If we are going to be talking computer science, we are going to be talking information technology, broadband, very significant indeed.
Back to you, Bernard.
Yes. Hey, so a couple things, but yes, to just piggyback on that, broadband is important. But bear in mind, Dominica has a lot of digital fiber optic line, and fiber optics is penetrating most communities. At least that's the plan from Digicel. So, from an infrastructure point of view, I think we are decent. We are good enough, I think, to do what we need to do. We certainly need more of that. You need internet fiber optics around the island. In fact, that should just be a part of thing. But I think the realities of data is going to push those companies into that area anyway. So I think private investment is going to take care of a lot of that. The other thing with infrastructure is more and more infrastructure is actually remote, cloud computing. What cloud computing implies is that I can stay at my home in Dominica and access a supercomputer somewhere in Atlanta, or access a bunch of server banks anywhere in the world, and an incredible storage capacity. So I don't need necessarily to have a huge infrastructure to do huge things, you see, and I don't have to pay for that. That's the other good thing about technology. I don't have to pay for 200,000 pieces of equipment. I simply rent a 5-minute space on that when I need to. And so the advent of cloud computing is making a built infrastructure not irrelevant, certainly, but less a constraint. What you need is a pretty good, decent internet connection, and then you can access computing resources, fantastic computing resources, to do almost anything you want around the world. That's what cloud computing is all about. Computing as a service, almost like getting electricity.
Are you there, caller? Yes, good afternoon to you.
Matt, I did not get the beginning, but I have a question concern. What is the payment to our? Is it in US value, or would they be paying our Caribbean value? Because there's an institution I think their US value, but they pay them in EC value. What do you think about what?
You want to speak to that?
So part of the attraction of outsourcing your work is that you get labor at a less expensive rate that you would in the United States. So I have been at liberty, and I'm sure Bernard has been as well, to see the US rates compared to the rates from India, for example, or from China. Companies, when they want to reduce the amount of budget that they spend on certain projects, they will say, okay, I'm going to give that portion of work to a company offshore, because there are certain jobs that where you require people to be face to face, and so those jobs cannot be outsourced. So you're paying 6 figures, sometimes 7 figures, for these jobs where you have to be face to face. The compromise, the attraction is that you then can go and you can outsource some of your work, and you can still stay within budget by paying less for companies that are offshore. Remember, this is a global economy, so we are not only just focusing on Dominica. There, you'll face a lot of competition as well. I mean, India is a powerhouse, right? And so you want to make sure that you also remain competitive. But I will say this, without a shadow of a doubt, that the salaries that are paid would be significantly higher, especially you have the skill set, you've paid your dues, you've studied, you've done well, and those salaries will be significantly higher than what we're used to on island.
Let's take a break. We'll come back for our closing comments there. We have 20 more minutes. Stick around, Dominic. Stick around.
Hello, Dominica. We know you love talking, surfing the web, streaming, and chatting on your favorite social media apps. That's why Digicel is giving you more on our upgraded Prime bundles. Starting as low as $5, you can now activate a Digicel Prime bundle and get unlimited digi-to-digi calls, minutes for local or regional calls, data to use as you like, extra data for endless messaging on WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, plus data to use on your favorite Digicel apps. Activate a Digicel Prime bundle today in the My Digicel app or dial *140#. Digicel, better together.
Sardine have a new vibe. Brunswick Sardine have a new. Brunswick Sardine Filet. It have a new vibe. You hear when me say, run go to your favorite supermarket or corner shop and grab a couple things today. Cause this a sitting where everybody a go like. Brunswick Sardine have a new vibe. 5 different flavors for you to try. Brunswick Sardine have a new vibe. Plus it boneless. Oh yes, that's right. Brunswick Sardine have a new vibe. Packed with nutrition in every bite. It tastes nice. Brunswick Sardine have a new vibe.
We are in the hurricane season. Cut down trees close to your house, car, and any other buildings, or at very least, trim their branches. If a large tree falls onto your house, it can punch a big hole in the roof. If a large tree falls onto your car, it can easily be crushed flat. Spindly evergreens are especially likely to fall in the event of a hurricane.
If you know your favorite store, dial it now. 612-1253. That's Mega Deals. You can rely on Mega for some real deals on name brand clothing and electronics. High quality, low price. We are a wholesale and retail store located in Calabishi, right on the main road. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram as Mega Deals Dominica. Like our page. Check out our stuff. Call us. Visit us. Would appreciate that. Come try it on. Love it. Buy it at Mega Deals. Your one and only online and brick and mortar store. Mega Deals is also on wheels. We make it convenient for your shopping. We deliver straight to your door. Email us at info@megadealsda.com. Rely on Mega Deals for some real deals.
The hurricane season is here. Being prepared can help you and your family minimize the impact of the adverse weather conditions. Here's a few hurricane preparedness tips from Fine Foods. Know all evacuation routes if you live close to the coast. Have a first aid kit and prescription drug supplies on hand. If you need to evacuate, bring these supplies with you. Have plenty bottled water, batteries, and flashlights. Always have plenty of non-perishable items on hand. Be prepared. A few hurricane preparedness tips by Fine Foods, the biggest distributor of the biggest brands.
Wow! Calling all bus drivers. All bus drivers. Auto Trade has a crazy deal for 2022. Be your own boss, Busman. Come in, talk to us, drive up in a brand new Nissan Irvine for a low payment of only $72 per day. I repeat, $72 per day. As low as $1,995 monthly. Calling all bus drivers. This is for a limited time only. Offer ends March 31st, 2022. Terms and conditions apply. Auto Trade. It's more than a vehicle. It's a relationship. Why?
The hurricane season is upon us, and securing your home in the event of a storm or hurricane should be your top priority. You'll need high-quality foam ply that can be used over and over, and that's the quality you get from Asafans Home and Building. For a limited time, save over $60 on every sheet of foam ply purchased. Yes, you heard right. You'll be saving over $60 because the reduced price is now $168. Not only is it at a low price, but the quality is great. Hurry on down to Asafans Home and Building, located at Focal Industrial Site, or give them a call at 255-2760 or 255-2770 for more info. Ask about the free delivery.
Our time is somewhat limited at this time. We have about 50 minutes, so we're going to go back to Mr. G as we climb down to the final minutes on this program. Mr. G, back to you.
Yes, Matt. Before we move on, I wanted to read a message from someone who's sent me a WhatsApp. It's in keeping, and I want to go back to you, Mr. Etienne, because that's important. They said, with regards to the preparing the students for, for this new revolution, industrial revolution, and to help prepare them for these job opportunities that will be created there in that environment, are there guidance counselors at the schools and the colleges that can help those students in, in giving them the kind of direction to help them on this?
Yeah, we do have guidance counselors, and one of the things that we do prior to the semester, we normally have an orientation week, and of course, different faculties, we would have session with the students, not just advising, but we also guide them along those lines. So in fact, we do.
But would you say that the information that they're receiving, is broad enough, it's impactful enough, it's deep enough, so that could help them to make up their minds to make a choice in terms of a career path? And how receptive do you find the students to this kind of guidance and information?
Okay, well, one of the things I think that was mentioned previously, and I believe it tends to be a problem, and going back on what Pastor Avanel said in terms of the grade school, I believe there are some things that we need to, and I think Mr. E2 also alluded to the fact that there needs to be a cultural shift in the way that we approach this thing. So we should not even wait until they are just coming from the high schools and entering into college. I believe we should even in the primary schools, we should start working on this thing so that at least by the time they get to Form 5 and on the way to college, they are a little more informed. But in truth and in fact, sometimes it can be a bit challenging and a bit difficult to have it done just at the college level. And as we're on this point, I remember a few years ago, because I also taught in the BVI for some time, and I recall in first form at high school, there was this little Indian boy in my class, just about maybe 11, 12. And I mean, I was just so taken aback in terms of his computer science skills as opposed to his peers, And I realized even at his age, in terms of what he was exposed to as being of Indian descent. So I believe, we need to have this cultural, I believe it has to start even before they get to the college. But it is a challenge.
And if I can just jump and add a little bit on that, absolutely, you're absolutely correct. I mean, that is what we need to do. And I think by the time our students get to fifth form, the most promising of them, and I think everyone should get that broad-based technological education, but the most promising of them should be competent programmers, competent in basic statistics, competent actually to get a job at entry level in those areas out of high school, right? Because it's possible. A lot of people get 2-year degrees in those areas or boot camp training and they're competent in those areas. But we have to take it to the level where we say our national priority is to get our top 10 talent ready for those things out of high school. And by the time we get them into our college system, our 3-year college system, We're just taking to the next level that by the time they get through this, they're excellent talent for that global market. I mean, we have to do it, and we can do it because we go to school early, we learn well, as I said. And here's the thing, our students now are digital natives. They were born into the digital world. They're not like us who are digital, migrants, right? But they are digital natives. And so they actually have an intuitive understanding of technology, and they love it, and they're fascinated by it, and they're passionate about it. What all we need to do is to translate them from consumers of that stuff into producers of that stuff. But that's an easier step to do than people who are not already passionate about it, passionate about schooling. So we have the right ingredients. We just need to put the recipe together at a national level. And then we can ignite what I think could be a fantastic technology. We're a small economy. The number of people we need to employ is not even a large department in many of companies. It's a small division in my company, right? The number of Dominicans we need to employ to ignite this thing. 200 people in my department make 3 times the total GDP of Dominica. It's not an extremely onerous task, yeah? And what happens when you create this core of people who have the skill sets is you generate an entire economy around that. Because now you need more people to build more homes. You need more service people. You need more restaurants. You need more entertainment. You need more agriculture. You need fresh produce and fruits and so forth. And you have an industrial core that ignites by the spillover effect and the multiplier effect your entire economy. And this is something that we can do. Size is actually to our advantage. We're a small economy. And we have a few people, bright people, who do very well when they're plugged into different economies. So we need to set up our ecosystem so that we can ignite that talent and that value creation right here in Dominica.
Yes, and no doubt, absolutely no doubt about that. I mean, I can tell you when I have a problem with my computer, any technical, I call my son, and he tells me everything about it. What I thought was a problem really wasn't a problem. So the point is, as you said, I mean, we were living in times when they had bullseye, and some of us, and in times when they had to send a cable or whatever, telex and so on. Today, you get on WhatsApp and you can talk to anybody anywhere in the world. So the fact of the matter is, these kids are born into that, and I think from elementary school, certainly, that should be part of the curriculum. Winston, I totally agree with you. It would make life much easier for them and for everybody else. But I think I agree also with Bernard that in order for you to get that, you need to have a national policy, that a mindset that is get to this whole new paradigm shift that's putting us in that direction to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. We may not necessarily be as competitive in bananas with the Dominican Republic and some of these countries, but in terms of that field there, in this new industrial revolution, I think we are very, very competitive. I think I have confidence in our students that they can do it, but I think we have to ingrain that in them at a very early stage, and they will see the benefits. The kind of 6 figures that Avanel is talking about there. How many of our students wouldn't like to be earning that by the time they get to be 25? You understand what I'm saying, Avanel? So we have to be very practical about this thing. And this scholar who said that about these fairs and these exhibitions, I mean, these are tangible. You need to do that. So you need to do that. The same way we can have an exhibition of our agriculture and of our industry or physical product. We can have exhibition of that. And so it seems to me that's important for us to start thinking about that new paradigm shift from the elementary level. So that national policy has to speak to it from the curriculum in the elementary level. I don't know what your further thoughts on that, Avanel.
I particularly appreciated that comment on having displays on exhibitions, and I will take a little bit further to say this. So over the last 3 weeks, I'm getting ready to travel back to Boston later on this week, but I had the opportunity to traverse the island a little bit, speaking to different groups of students about such types of opportunities, and they were looking at me wide-eyed. I was having them pull out their calculator and calculating this is how much you can earn, and some of these jobs you don't even have to wait 2 to 3 years. I mean, I'm looking at my kid who is earning both my kids who are doing so extremely well, just straight out of college, past 6 figures a long time ago. And so I was thinking that rather than me in my little tiny world there, making an effort, going all around the country trying to preach the gospel of technology and IT and engineering. Wouldn't it be great if we had a body of bright minds like Bernard and others as well? We have so much talent and skills out there in other parts of the world who could come down. Maybe we have them come on a rotating basis and talk about, inspire the kids, kids and adults as well, because let's not forget that many of our adults, we need to reshift, we need to change our minds about what it is that we have been doing all along the way. We need to have a different mindset and say, you know what, I'm going to get recertified. I may not be able to go to a four-year college now, but let me get that certification in Salesforce. It only takes 6 months. Or let me get that certification in some form of IT whatsoever so that I can secure myself a good job in this economy. So a couple things we need to, and I don't know how it's going to be done. I'm just going to throw it out there, but we need to have some sort of collaborative effort where we can get all of these bright minds that came straight out of little villages like Delhi. Shout out to Delhi and La Plaine and Grand Bay and all over. Trained at schools like grammar school and convent high, went off to do great things for America and the UK. And we need to have them come back, set up an environment where they can come back and inspire our young people so that one or two of us are not trying to do everything, number one. And then we also need to have more of these training programs. I heard last night that there are some training programs that have already started, but I wondered whether they were focused. These were training programs for remote jobs. I heard about that. Was there any focus on science, on engineering, on IT, or are we still looking at the same old that we had before?
Thanks a lot for that. And Mr. Winston, Etienne, the time is not on our side. We're winding down now. So in your closing remarks, maybe you can speak to the question that Avanel just raised about, in terms of these training programs.
Yeah, I believe that the program that she's referring to is the Work Online Dominica program. And I think it is a program, it's a 12-week program. I'm not sure it is specifically sciences or science-oriented or computer science-oriented. I think it's just basically allowing persons who are skilled in certain areas to be able to market themselves and to market what they do. So I think in short, basically this is what the program is about, the Work Online Dominica program. And I believe there are some 180 persons that was just trained, young persons, just trained in that program. But again, you don't want to just limit it to just, one particular skill set. You want to extend it in the area of sciences, in the area of computer sciences and engineering and all of those areas. But in closing, of course, as you said, Mr. Gregoire, time is quickly running. I just really want to be so thankful for being here this afternoon. I really want to thank Pastor Avanel for, as a matter of fact, the first time, she did some workshop and seminars at my church, and we just connected immediately. It was just a digital connection. And it was just like instant, just like that. And she told me about the program, and she was coming on the program, and I told her I'm on board and that I will be there. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Another thing I want to mention is, even as a college lecturer, community of practice is very important. And I like the word collaboration. I like that word because I believe in order for us to go forward, we need to network with other professionals all over the world.
Mr. G, you have 1 minute to wrap up. One minute.
Let me give that minute to Bernard, because I know Bernard has been talking about his international network.
All right, I appreciate it. And I definitely, as I am a big advocate that we need, Dominica is a seamless society. We are too small to be bounded by our shoreline. We're a seamless society of 200,000 plus people who are doing very interesting things around the world. What we need to do is to find a way to make that network cohesive and focus on our HQ, our headquarters, which lies in the Caribbean Ocean. That's our headquarters, but our nation is seamless around the world. We need to bring this together and we need to put it together in a structure that works. But let me take off my technical hat for a minute there as we close up, and let me put in a little bit of a political hat. What does it take to really do that? It takes a mindset, a certain orientation of how one views development, how one structures one society, what is one incentives are. It takes to develop a society like that, we need to be fair. We need to be transparent. We let have the best talent come forth. You cannot have any political bias on who you send to train. You have to take the best minds. You can't have political bias on who you fund to start these businesses. You have to have the best ideas reign. And so you need a transparency. You need a certain leadership that is focused truly on national development and not political advantage. And so, in my opinion, what we need is a transformational change in our politics, our political leadership, and those ideas to come to fruition. If we don't do that, if we don't change this sort of leadership ideas and concepts and the way we organize right now, where we allow particular political allegiance to dictate who gets an opportunity in a technocratic knowledge economy, we will not succeed. And so that is what we must do. We must position ourselves as a society to think seriously. Do we want this vision of the future, and what will it take to accomplish it?
Well, thanks a lot, Bernard. Thanks a lot, Abner. Thanks a lot, Winston. Thanks a lot for allowing us to invade your space. Thanks to all the folks on Facebook and our listeners worldwide at every nook and cranny in Dominica. Mac, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you again. Our next stop is Dominica.